Hi, everybody, and happy Monday. I hope all of you had such a wonderful weekend. I want to thank you for being so patient while Mrs. Collier was out of town, and thank you for working so hard and still completing your school assignments, even though I was not there on camera with you. I just wanted to thank you for all of your hard work, and I am so excited to be back with you guys again. Okay, let's get started with our lesson today with doing a phonemic awareness warm-up. So that means we are just going to listen for the beginning sounds of some words. So just like we usually do, Mrs. Collier will say the word, you will say the word to your computer, and then we will listen and say the beginning sound together. Are you ready? Let's get started. So, just in case we need an example, because it's just been a couple days, we had a long weekend, let's start with the word pig. When I say the word pig, say the word pig. Good job. When you say the word pig, what beginning sound, what is that first sound that you hear when you say the word pig? P is the beginning letter that starts for the word pig, so we hear the p sound. Very good. Okay, let's do some more. What about when I say the word hot? Hot. Say the word hot. When Mrs. Collier went to the wedding this weekend, it was very hot outside. So what is that beginning sound in the word hot? It begins with an H, so we hear a sound when we say the word hot. Next, we have the word jet. Jet. Say the word jet. When I say the word jet, what is the beginning sound that I hear when I say jet? J, j. That one can be a little bit tricky. I know in small group we get our g and j, so our g and our j sounds a little bit mixed up sometimes because they do sound alike sometimes. But for jet, we hear the j, j sound for our letter J. Let's do a couple more. Let's do the word kite. When I say the word kite, what is that beginning sound that I hear? So if you say the word kite, say kite. What beginning sound do we hear? K, k. Kite begins with the letter K, and the letter K makes a k, k sound. So the first beginning sound we hear for the word kite is k. Now let's do the letter, let's think. Oh, I have one. Let's do the word 10. Say the word 10. 10. Can you hold up 10 fingers for me? 10. So when I say the word 10, the beginning sound I hear is what sound? T, t. When I say the word 10, it begins with a T, which is the t, t sound. Let's do one more together. Lastly, I have the word lip. Lip, like the lip on your face. Say the word lip. What is the beginning sound for the word lip? This one's fun to do. L, l. It begins with an L. So we hear the l sound for lip. Very good. Let's go on to our next activity. As part of our lesson, we're going to go over some daily frequency words today. These are the words that Mrs. Collier holds up with the cards. We say the word, spell the word, and write the word. Are you ready? These are some new words, so it's just building our vocabulary. First high frequency word we're going to go over is the word do. Do. Say the word do. Very good. Do is spelled D-O. So we hear the d sound, and then our O makes an oo sound. So we hear d-oo, and we blend it together, do. Okay, so do is our word. It is spelled D-O. O. And we can air write the word. Are we ready? Get our finger ready? We're going to write a lowercase d and an O. Awesome job. Let's do another. Our next word is the word find. Find. Say the word find. Very good. Find is spelled F-I-N-D. And when we sound out the word find, it's a little bit different. So we hear our F, which makes what sound? F, f. We have our I, and this is a long I, so that means it makes the I sound and not the usually I sound. And then our N and D together make a ND sound. So we hear the N and the D of the D. So when we put it all together, we get find. Find. So our word is find. It is spelled F-I-N-D, and we can air write it in the word in the air. So get your finger ready. I'm going to do a lowercase f, I, N, D. And when Mrs. Collier is doing it on her camera, the words and letters might look flipped when I'm air writing. So if it looks like it's backwards, it's just because of how the camera flips it. I just wanted to remind you of that. Next word is the word funny. Funny. Say the word funny. Awesome job. Funny is spelled F-U-N-N-Y. So when we're sounding it out, we hear F. The U makes the sound, and the N just makes a N sound, and our Y doesn't make its usual yeah sound. It actually makes the long E sound, so it says E. So when we put it together, we get F, un-E. So do it with me. F, un-E. Very good. Let's do a couple more together. Word is sing. Sing. Mrs. Collier loves to sing. Sing is spelled S-I-N-G. So we know our S makes the S sound, and when you see the letters I-N-G together, that almost always makes an ing sound. So say ing. So if we have s-ing, and we put those together, we blend it, we get s-ing, sing. So our word is sing. Sing is spelled S-I-N-G. Oops, sorry. S-I-N-G. And we're going to air write with our fingers in the air, so get your finger up. And we are going to spell S-I-N-G. Very good. Next word is the word no. No. I'm pretty sure we all know this word. So our word is no. No is spelled N-O. So our N makes that N sound. And we have our long O, which makes our O sound, and not that OO sound we've seen. So when we put them together, we get N-O. No. So our word is no. No is spelled N-O, and we can write the word no N-O. Do it with me. N-O. Very good. One more. Our last high frequency word is the word they. They. Say the word they. Very good. They is spelled T-H-E-Y. Now when we see the two letters together, T and H, that makes the th sound. And then our E and Y actually make an A sound. So when we put it together, we get A. They. So our word is they. They is spelled T-H-E-Y. And our last time you're writing a word, get your fingers up, get them ready. We are going to spell T-H-E-Y. Very good job. Next part of our lesson, I want us to go over some of our vocabulary words that we learned last week. So if you remember one of our stories from last week, we read the story Susie and the Bandits. Now this was a story about our raccoons who were our bandits or robbers who were going through the neighbors' trash cans, and then the other animals did not like this, so Susie Skunk had to go talk to the bandits. So that is what our story was about, if you remember reading it. We read it last week, so I think we all remember reading that one. So if you remember, we had some new vocabulary words that were introduced into that story. So we are just going to go over a few of those words, and then I'm going to ask you some questions. Now, when I ask you the question, it's going to have one vocabulary word in it. So think about what the word means and think about what the question is I'm asking you. Now, when I ask you this question, you can say your answer to your screen to Mrs. Collier, or you can answer to somebody else if you have grandma, grandpa, mom, dad, aunt, uncle, brother, sister, whoever it is helping you. If you have help, but if you don't, you can just say your answer right to the screen. Let's get started. So one of our vocabulary words was the word chattered or chatter. It's the same word, it's just used in a different context. So when I say chatter or chattered, that is the same word. But the word chatter or chattered means to talk fast. So Mrs. Collier talks very fast sometimes a little bit too fast. Chatter can also mean it's very loud and there's a lot of talking going on. My question for you is, what is it like when there's a lot of chattering going on in the lunchroom? So I know we don't eat lunch anymore at the school, but if you have eaten lunch in a cafeteria, what is it like when there's a lot of chattering going on? One of our vocabulary words was the word ears. So our ears, like the ones we have right here, is a part of our body that helps us hear everything. So if I were to ask you, how do we use our ears to learn during a school day? So how do you use your ears to learn while you are learning with Mrs. Collier? Next vocabulary word is the word steady. So the word steady means calm or relaxed. So if I were to ask you, why is it important to walk steadily while carrying a hot bowl of soup? Why do you think? Our last vocabulary word to go over is the word still. So the word still means not moving. Can you think of a time during the day when you are not moving at all? Our first story that we are going to be reading today is a story called Stone Stew, and it is a traditional folk tale. Now, as we read through our story, you will see some words that are highlighted in the yellow boxes. That is what the highlight looks like. Those are going to be our new vocabulary words. So after we read our story, we will go over the vocabulary words in the bottom section that says Introduce Oral Vocabulary. Okay, so let's get started. Stone Stew, a traditional folk tale. Long ago in the West Indies, a sailor wandered into a small town. He was hungry and far from port. The townspeople feared strangers and kept themselves apart from others. When they saw the sailor, they worried that he might be dangerous. The doors and shutters throughout the town quickly slammed shut. The sailor knocked on a door and asked for a bite to eat. "Better keep on moving," the man said. "There is nothing to eat here." "I'll have to make my stone stew then," the sailor said. Out of his bag the sailor pulled out a pot. He filled it with water from the town well and built a fire underneath it. Then with great care he took a stone from a velvet bag and dropped it into the water. The townspeople peered from behind the closed doors and shutters to keep a careful watch on the sailor. The sailor stirred his pot, took a taste, and licked his lips. This is delicious," he said rather loudly. "But stone stew with okra is even better." A boy sneaked out of his house and crept over to see what the sailor was cooking. Then he shyly approached the sailor. "Here is some okra, sir." "Why, thank you, son," said the sailor as he dropped the okra in the pot. "You know, I once had stone stew with okra and pork, and it was fit for a king." The town butcher came out of his shop with some salt pork and pig's snout. "Excellent!" cried the sailor. "But oh, if there were yams, it would be so much better." A woman soon appeared with her apron full of yams from her cupboard. And so it went with the breadfruit, coconut milk, onions, and so on. Soon there was a scrumptious meal for the whole town. They all sat down together to have some stew. The townspeople were thrilled by the delicious stone stew and proud of their contributions. Never had they had such a feast. "Imagine that," they said, "all made from a stone." The townspeople offered the sailor a lot of money for a special stone, but he wouldn't accept it. So the townspeople gave him directions to the port. The next day the sailor was on his way. To this day the townspeople fondly remember the sailor and his wonderful stone stew. So now, boys and girls, at the bottom of our page in the red letters, it says Introduce Oral Vocabulary. So Mrs. Collier is going to say the vocabulary word, that is the yellow highlighted word, and then I'm going to read the definition, which will tell us what the word means. I will then say how it was used in the story, and we will talk about what we think that means. Okay, so our first vocabulary word is the word apart. The word apart means separate or away from others. In the story, the word apart was used when it says, "The townspeople feared strangers and kept themselves apart from others." Why do you think you would keep yourself apart from strangers? Well, in our sentence, it says that the townspeople were fearful. They feared strangers, so they wanted to keep themselves away from them. Our next word is worried. The word worried means concerned that something bad may happen. The word worried was used in our story when it said, when they saw the sailor, they worried that he might be dangerous. Now, if the townspeople were worried that he might be dangerous, again, that means they are worried that something bad might happen and he might be dangerous or up to no good or might do something bad. And so that is also why they say apart from him, because he was a stranger and they were worried that he might be dangerous. So that is our vocabulary words on this page for the word apart and the word worried. On our next page of the story, we have 4 vocabulary words to go over. So let's get started. Our first vocabulary word at the bottom of the page is the word sneaked. Sneaked means went in a way so that no one else would see. The word sneaked was used in our story when it says, a boy sneaked out of his house and crept over to see what the sailor was cooking. Why do you think the boy would have to sneak out of his house to see what the sailor was cooking? Why do you think? Well, if we remember how the townspeople were worried and they stayed apart from the sailor, the boy may have had to sneak away from his family so that he could go see what he was cooking without having to worry his family. So he went away that no one could see him go. He sneaked away. Our next vocabulary word is the word crept. The word crept means moved slowly so no one notices. So in our story, it says a boy sneaked out of his house. So we just learned the word sneaked. So that means that no one can see you. So that's a way that you're going, no one can see you. And crept means you moved slowly so no one notices you. So it says a boy sneaked out of his house and crept over to see what the sailor was cooking. So he moved slowly as he snuck his way over to the sailor. Our next word is snout. A snout is another word for nose. So a snout is usually on animals like a pig. So in our story, it says the town butcher came out of his shop with some salt pork and pig snout. So that is they're eating the pig's nose in their food. So that is what the word snout means. The town butcher. So the butcher is the man or woman whose job it is to prepare meat for people to eat. And our last word is proud. Proud. Proud means happy to have done something well. In our story, the word proud was used when we say that townspeople were thrilled by the delicious stone stew and proud of their contributions. So they were proud that they each provided some ingredients like the onions, the pig snout, and the vegetables to help the sailor make his stone stew. For the next part of our lesson, we are going to read a story about Curious George. Now, some of you may have heard of this story character before, but if you haven't, that's okay. But before we get reading, I would like to talk about some things before we begin to read. So first, I would like to begin with that this genre is fantasy. So that means that this is a story that could not happen in real life. So as we read through our story, you may look for events that could not really happen. And you could also look for animals that are acting like people because that doesn't happen in real life. Also, our target skill is sequence of events. So that means that when we tell the story or when we read the story, they are happening in the order which they happened. Here we have the cover of our story, and our title is Curious George at School, based on Margaret and H.A. Ray's Curious George. So Curious George, our character's name is George, but they call him Curious George. Does anybody know what the word curious means? The word curious means that you are eager to find out about things. So throughout our story, we may call him Curious George or just George. And our character is a small monkey. So when we talked about how our genre of our story is fantasy, now a small monkey would not join us in our classroom and go to school with us. So this is a make-believe, made-up story. And our essential question at the bottom, so this is what we need to be thinking about as we're reading, is why is it going to school important? So be thinking about that question. Why is it important to go to school? And lastly, before we begin our story, let's think about the things that we do at school. Now, of course, since we learn online, it looks a little bit different. But when we are at school or do school online, let's think. We read books together. We sometimes sing songs together in music or free time. We do math together. We write in our notebooks together. We talk together. What do you like to do most at school? Great. Let's get reading Curious George at School. This is George. He can help a lot. So let's look at our picture. We see, where is George at? Is he on the carpet or is he on the chair? Well, George is a monkey, so let's look for a monkey in our picture. Here he is. George is standing on the yellow chair. He is with his teacher and his class. The class board says, Mr. Apple says, welcome to your first day of school. So it says, this is George. He can help a lot. George can sing. He is funny. Now, boys and girls, if you notice that sing and funny are highlighted, why do you think that might be? Why do you think those two words are highlighted? Well, sing and funny were two of our high frequency words. So we talked about the words sing and funny earlier in our lesson. Why do you think the students think George is funny? When we look at our pictures, do you see George doing something that is funny? Mix, mix, mix a bit. Mix, mix, mix a lot. So if we look at our pictures, we can see that George has found some paint. So he may be in art class or working on arts and crafts with his class. So George is pouring paints into a bucket. He is mixing the paints, and is he being clean or is George making a mess? George is making a mess. We can see our pots or bowls are so messy. There is paint everywhere. He is splashing the paint. Oh no! What do you think might happen next with George and all of this paint? It is a big mess. Oh, so George is realizing that he has made a very big mess. We can see that some of his classmates look very surprised or shocked at how messy the art station is. George ran. What did he find? So it tells us that George ran out of that room. And what did he find? What do you think George is going to find, everybody? What do we think it might be? He got a mop. He had a big job to do. So what did George go and find? He went and found a mop. What do you use a mop for? You use a mop to clean. No. It is a big mess. George is sad. Oh, why do we think George is sad? George could be sad because he has made a very big mess and he tried to clean it up and it looks like the mess just got even bigger. Oh, what do we think might happen next? Do we have any guesses? What do we think might happen next? Let's look closely at this picture. So this picture does not have any words, so we have to look and see if we can figure out what is happening in this picture. So what do you see? What do we see? Mrs. Collier sees a mop that some students are using to clean the paint off of the floor. And some students also have sponges that they are using to clean up the floor. So if you use a sponge to clean up liquid, it helps it pick it up. So what are all of these students doing? They are helping or cleaning. They are helping George clean up his big, big mess. Would you help George clean up his big, big mess if you were in his class? Kids help him do a big job. They can help him a lot. He is not sad. Oh, what a great ending to our story. So all of George's classmates helped George clean up his mess, and they were so kind to him and helped him feel better. George is not sad anymore because the mess is all cleaned up. Let's think again about our essential question that we saw at the very beginning of our story. Our essential question was, why is going to school important? So Mrs. Collier is going to ask this question sometime later this week. So be thinking about, why is going to school important? Now that we finished our main story of the week, Curious George at School, we are going to read our decodable for the day. So our decodable's name is Lil and Max. So let's look at the cover of our decodable. What kind of animals do we think these might be? These two animals, what do we think they might be? They are koalas. And what are they standing on? Or what are they holding on to? We just talked about this object in our last story. It is a mop. Okay, so let's get started. Lil and Max. So Mrs. Collier will read the sentence, then I want you to repeat it after me. Are you ready? Okay. Lil got a big, big mop. Okay, your turn. Read it with me or whisper read it with me. Lil got a big, big mop. Can Lil and Max sit on top? Can Lil and Max sit on top? Can they do it? No. So whisper read it with me. Can they do it? No. So we can see in our picture that they fell off of the mop. Oh no. Max got a big, big pot. Max got a big, big pot. Can Lil and Max hop on it? Can Lil and Max hop on it? What do we think? Can Lil and Max do it? hip, hop, hip, hop, hop, hip, hop, hip, hop, hop. Lil and Max hop in it. Lil and Max hop in it. So they made it. They hopped into the pop. What do we think is going to happen next? Lil and Max find a cot. Lil and Max find a cot. It is a big, big, big cot. It is a big, big, big cot. Lil can sit on top. Lil can sit on top. Max can sit on top too. Max can sit on top too.